So the test continues. Comes Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon into the first Bet Midrash. First Bet Midrash in the city. And he gives a shiur. What is the shiur? The Gemara says, Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon immediately started the giving a shiur. Topic, that a person should always be soft like a reed and not hard like a cedar. And it was for this reason that the reed merited to have pens drawn from it in order to be used to write Torah scrolls and Tfilini and Mezuzot. Rabbi Elazar says a person has to understand that there are times that he's going to make a mistake. And there are times other people are going to make a mistake. Sometimes that mistake could even happen from a Chacham. Chacham can make a mistake. But if you want to emulate the best of the best, you have to learn how to be flexible and not be something that's not flexible. Cedar is not a flexible tree. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't use a cedar for anything having to do with Torah. He's not going to use it to write, to make any pens. No. Why? It's not flexible. But the reed, it's flexible, that he uses it. Why? To teach us. The Torah is not there just to tell you, no, no, no. Sometimes, yes is the answer. It doesn't take a big Chacham to tell you that everything is forbidden. An idiot can do that. A Chacham will tell you when it's allowed and when it's not allowed. And not only tell you when it's allowed and when it's not allowed, but he's going to tell you when it's allowed and when it's not allowed, and according to the Torah. And in fact, we'll look for ways that the Torah permits certain things in order to make life easier for you. Some people think, oh, the more stringent I am, the more religious I am. Wrong. That's not right. That's not right at all. Being more stringent does not make you more religious. In fact, Rav Ovadia Alav Shalom says that certain people, they add so many chumrot, so many stringencies, these chumrot, which is stringencies in Hebrew, turn them into chamorim, turn them into donkeys. A real chacham is not looking for stringencies. A real chacham is looking to help people live in accordance to the Torah. Sometimes you have to find a way to make things easier for people. Whereas other times, you have to add stringencies in order to protect people. The Chacham is going to know when to do it and when not to do it. And in order to be that Chacham, it's not just about learning a lot of information, but also learning how to be flexible as a human being. When a person is black and white all the time, they're not going to succeed in anything in their life. They're not going to succeed in their marriage. They're not going to succeed in their parenthood. They're not going to succeed in the Torah. They're not going to succeed in becoming a good human being altogether. They're not going to succeed in business. They're not going to succeed in anything. Why? Because when a person is not flexible, that means, first and foremost, if their wife or their husband does anything wrong, the food is not hot enough, or it doesn't taste perfect enough, or they didn't come on time, or they didn't, make something ready, or they didn't show up, or they didn't say thank you, or they didn't open the door, or they didn't pay attention to you exactly like you want. Immediately, fight. Fight! Their poor kids, instead of having parents, they'll have a wrestling match in the house. Every time the father shows up from work, the kids can start cheering. Fight, 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 like we did when we were little kids. Why? Because they know the father's not flexible, the mother's not flexible, that means there has to be a fight. Nobody wants flexible. He says black, she says white, he says white, she says black, and both of them are wrong. It's burgundy. Everybody's, what? No one's flexible. No one's flexible. You're not flexible, your marriage will go to the garbage. To the garbage. Parenthood, nightmare. Why? Your kids will always be victims. Always be victims. Why? Those kids will never have a mind of their own. They'll be scared to death from whatever is going on. And guess what happens with scared kids? Scared kids become the worst kids. Scared kids become the worst kids. Why? They don't become good kids. If they're good, that's not because their parents scared them to death. They're good because their parents knew how to be flexible, forgiving at times, a little more stringent at other times, compromising at times, less compromising at other times. But when parents are ultra strict, the kids don't turn out good. Why? The kids many times turn out revolting. What they do is, in front of the parents, they're like, so, okay, fine, soldiers. As soon as the parent looks one way or another, it's like breaking out of jail. They break out of jail, they make every crime under the sun. And that's why you'll see many times the criminals of the world come from criminals. They don't come usually from good parents. They come from criminals. The criminal come from a criminal. But that criminal as a parent, many times, didn't want his kid to be a criminal. He was very strict. He figured if he's very strict at home, his kid is not going to be a criminal. It's the opposite. The kid ends up being a criminal because of that strictness. It's not good to be overly strict when it comes to be kids. When it comes to teaching kids, you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible. Sometimes you have to remind yourself, he's only 3 years old. So what if he knees you in the face instead of giving you a kiss goodnight? Okay, it's not fun, it's not great, but he's 3 years old, big deal. You have to remember that sometimes this is what happens. Sometimes that's their weird way of communicating. Sometimes it's a mistake. He thought he was playing a game. Sometimes this, sometimes that. Sometimes she said something and she meant it somebody else, or she said something and it meant this. You have to understand, at times you have to be flexible. If you're not flexible, your parenting is going to be a nightmare. A nightmare. Now again, if you're too loose, you let your kids do everything, then of course you have little Hitlers in your house. They're just growing to become them. So you have to be flexible. That's what flexible means. Flexible means one way. Sometimes you're one way, sometimes you're the other way. On the other hand, when it comes to business, if you're not flexible, you're never going to make it. Why? Sometimes there's a deal on the table. There's a deal on the table, and it's not the way you want it. It's not the way you want it. They're saying 18,000. You're saying it's not worth more than 15,000. And you're right. It's not worth more than 15,000. But to say no, it's going to cost you 30,000. So you have to decide, is it worth it for me to pay 3,000 more than what it's worth? Because if I don't, it'll cost me 30,000. If you're a smart businessman, you'll say yes. I'm going to pay the extra 3,000 that it's not worth, because that 3,000 is saving me 30. But if you're an arrogant idiot that's never going to make a real dollar in his life, what's going to happen? Say, no, never going to pay you. Go find a different customer. I'll rather lose my money than pay you extra. You're an idiot. You're never going to make it in life. Why? Because you're right, but you're wrong. So in business, you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible. Look what happened recently. I didn't follow all the details of the transaction, but I know 2 details. One, Elon Musk decided that he wants to buy Twitter because that's the next medallion that he wants on his wall. He wants freedom of speech and all types of honor that comes with it. Fine, no problem. But the board that runs Twitter is literally his arch enemy. It's lefty, liberal, anti-truth, anti-anybody that speaks out the truth if it's not lefty liberalism. So the worst possible buyer and the worst possible seller. What happened in the end? They agreed. They came to terms. Why did they come to terms? Simple. The guys that are running the board are saying, listen, we can fight him, but why? We can just take the money and go build another company. Go live our life. Go do something else. Why fight this war if we could just cash out now and go do 1.5 million other things, just like he himself did with PayPal and with a bunch of other companies that he owned in the past? So, although they have a warped mentality when it comes to perhaps human nature in general, when it came to business, they were very smart. Why? Simple. He wants to buy it. He's going to pay a huge premium that the company's never going to be valued at that point ever again. He's going to pay for it. We're going to cash in and we're going to go do something else. We'll do something better because now we have money that we can do it with and no restrictions. So, as businessmen, geniuses. They cashed in at literally practically the peak, a little bit less than the peak price that they will ever get. In business, you have to be flexible or else you will never succeed in life. Sometimes you have somebody offering you a job. It's not the job that you want. but it can get you to the job that you want. Yeah, but I'm worth more. Is anybody paying you that more? No. So you're not worth more. You're only worth what somebody's willing to pay you. And if nobody's willing to pay you, you're not worth that much. Yeah, but I have experience. Okay, nobody cares. Yeah, but maybe I should wait. You could wait and make zero, or you can get the job that you don't really want, that you're worth a lot more to it, but you can at least make something until you get the job that you want. Sometimes you have to be flexible when it comes to work. But some people, no, unless I'm doing what I want to do from day one and get paid accordingly, I'm not going to do it. Okay, you're going to be a loser, and you're never going to make it in life, in anything that's worth anything. Why? Because the greatest CEOs, the greatest people in business, at some point, were the bottom of the barrel. Were the mailman, were the janitor, was the clerk, was the secretary. And what made them the CEO wasn't because they were always the smartest. Wasn't always because they always got what they want. But rather because they were persistent with the end goal. And they were willing to be flexible along the way to get to where it is. They were willing to be flexible. They were willing to take whatever heat they had to take in order to get to where they need to be. Sometimes a person is so arrogant, they don't think that they should take any heat. They don't think anybody should yell at them. They don't think anybody should be upset with them. They don't think anybody should underpay them. They don't think anybody should treat them anything less than them being the best and even better than what they really are. And unfortunately, that's the generation of today, the generation of entitlement. Everybody thinks that they should be paid like a CEO even though they don't have the skill set of a secretary. That's a reality. It's a wrong reality. It's a reality that creates a lot of problems for people. Hence the reason why a lot of people end up wasting their time at home doing absolutely nothing instead of actually doing something productive in the world.